several months ago, when I started to put this panel together, I naturally thought of David Goodman as moderator. I actually first met David when I hired him as a technical expert in a patent lawsuit. And it's actually David's technical analysis that allowed us to put together what turned out to be winning arguments both at the Manhattan District Court, Federal District Court here, as well as the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, which hears all patent cases and appeals. So David, of course, he's got, as I knew, when I hired him 3 or 4 years ago, he's got more than 40 years of experience in wireless technology. Extremely long view of a technology that's constantly changing. He was head of the Bell Labs radio research department, and he's now professor emeritus at the Polytechnic Institute of NYU. Among his honors are a membership in the National Academy of Engineering and the UK's Royal Academy of Engineering, and he's a fellow of the IEEE. I'd like you to welcome Professor David Goodman.
Thanks very much. That's very kind. I'm not going to be as kind to the panelists. What I propose to do is introduce each panelist just by name and affiliation, and let them say a few words about what they do, what's their each person's participation in broadband wireless, and then we'll go from there. We're going to try to judge what the audience is interested in, and so please, if you have any questions, I'll try to pay attention and see if I can work them into the discussion. So I said that I would introduce the panelists in random order, and I still haven't figured out what that is, but the first name I see on my program is Frank Bulban, and he's from Light Squared. So Frank, would you lead off for us, please?
I'm Frank Bulban. I've not been in wireless for 40 years, only 20 years, with the second GSM carrier in France, SFR, then with Orange, and then with Vodafone. And I joined Light Squared a bit over a year ago as the second employee. And the reason why I joined Light Squared is that I found the business model fascinating. We are the first ever wholesale-only wireless carrier in the world. And we are going to do that wholesale-only business model with 4G LTE and satellite complemented on our network, integrated on our network. And we will be selling our capacity on a per gigabyte basis to existing carriers who haven't got spectrum or enough of it or haven't got it nationwide. We'll be also selling it to retailers. We've signed Best Buy as an example already, to device manufacturers and to web players. So if you want to first remember 2 words about Light Squared, it's wholesale only.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll ask Bart Stuck to carry on from there.
Hi, I'm with Signal Lake, which is a venture fund in Westport, Connecticut and Boston. And we invest in, among other things, wireless business opportunities. Involvement with wireless goes back to the middle 80s when this was first getting going. So if trying to think of the most provocative thing, in 1996, I invested in a company called Ensemble Communications, which developed some modulation schemes that we call WiMAX today. Okay, and they ended up targeting New York City. It had a $300 million contract with WinStar through Alcatel-Lucent, as an example. So when it comes to wireless, the things that we see compelling here, why this is an interesting area, is the nature of infrastructure and communications is historically you had high fixed costs and low variable costs. That you had to dig the ground up, put conduit in, pull cables through it. With wireless, you put a couple towers up and you can broadcast to everybody, and the fixed costs are much less. And as you get more customers, you add them, you put more radios in, so your expenses start to track your revenue. So it's a very compelling business model. So what we see happening here that will be very disruptive in the next 5 years is very low cost base stations. These will be things the size of toaster ovens. They'll be priced at $10,000 and less, and they'll be the things that you'll see hanging on poles all over the place, and they'll be the things providing your voice data and video services going forward in time.
I'll introduce Jagjit Tour next, since he's selling these base stations for a few $100,000 each right now.
That's a problem.
He's at Alcatel-Lucent.
If they're going to go down to 10,000, that's going to be a problem. But hi everybody. So my name is Jagjit Toor. My background has been in deployment of wireless networks across the globe. I have deployed large-scale. I have led deployment of large-scale wireless networks in emerging markets like India, in Asia Pacific, and in the U.S. Currently, I'm based in Canada, and I'm looking after the technical support, the deployment, and basically all services related to build-up of wireless and wireline networks in Canada. Alcatel-Lucent, as Bart mentioned, is one of the leading equipment providers in the world, and surprisingly, we have 3 affiliations on this panel right now with Alcatel-Lucent. Bell Labs, the famous Bell Labs, are part of Alcatel-Lucent. David and Bart both have affiliations with Bell Labs.
Yeah. We were there together. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. And I'll ask Amy Spiegel next.
Sure.
From NYC Wireless.
So I feel kind of out of place only because the sort of business that I do with NYC Wireless is actually tremendously different from the sorts of businesses that my fellow panelists are on. When you talk about wireless broadband, there's really 3 types of wireless broadband. There's what we normally think about in terms of our cell phones, and that's cellular, or not really so much cellular, but low speed, relatively speaking, wireless data. There's high-speed sort of backbone wireless data services. That's the sort of stuff that runs on the top of the skyscrapers in downtown Manhattan, connecting big banks to their sister sites over in New Jersey for backup internet service. And then there's the stuff that I do, which is consumer-grade Wi-Fi, or really just Wi-Fi in general, which is fundamentally different in its nature than these other types of Wi-Fi, or these other types of networks. It's neither super high speed, gigabits per second, but it's also not centrally managed and run by a service provider. NYC Wireless is a nonprofit organization that's based in New York, and we started a bit over 10 years ago and really invented this whole idea of public space Wi-Fi. If you've ever used Wi-Fi in New York City, when you go into a park, for example, Bryant Park, which was probably still the most popular Wi-Fi park in the city, that's a project that we built in 2002 and 2003. We've got a lot of parks around New York City that have Wi-Fi. There's some other folks that have built these types of projects as well, but we are the only nonprofit that operates in New York that still builds this stuff out. We also were one of the first, or one of the creators of this idea of community wireless, and that's really what I would ideally want you guys to take away, which is that wireless broadband is not something that requires billions of dollars of investment, or not necessarily something that requires billions of dollars of investment and very large centrally managed service providers. It's something that you and I can all do collaboratively from the ground up, and it's something that that we can actually build out and provide service to each other and provide service to our community using off-the-shelf hardware.
Thanks. I'll introduce Sandeep Biotra now from Morgan Joseph.
Hi, I'm Sandeep Biotra, Managing Director at Morgan Joseph. Morgan Joseph is a middle market investment bank, and what that means is we provide financing as well as M&A advisory services to the middle market. We just 4 blocks down in the Rock Center building. My role is I focus in the telecom area. I've done a number of wireless deals, the most notable being when Clearwire was, I guess, the name we're all familiar with, is that the main asset is the spectrum that they have, and I represented the ITFS Alliance when they did the sale to Clearwire. and we also raised money for a company called TowerStream, which is a WiMAX-based ISP in the city and in 10 different markets in the country. Before doing banking, I had a real job as a wireless engineer. So I grew up as a wireless engineer, and I worked with a company called Hughes Network Systems. And it's actually fascinating for me. When I started off my career, I worked in the wireless and local loop, which is basically a solution for developing countries not to dig up trenches but have basic telephony, and that's clearly morphed into WiMAX and Broadband, and and we have different business models evolving. So it's an industry which holds a special place in my heart, just in addition to being a banker. So it's something which I'm very excited about.